No, sorry. The Final Destination.
Yeah. To separate, it's not Final Destination 4. It's the Final
The
Destination.
definitive Final Destination. I mean, they're making it sound like this is it.
Oh, yeah, we all know this will for sure be the last one. This ain't your daddy's penultimate Final Destination. This is the Final Destination, bitches.
Exactly. There is no turning back.
It's just like the Friday the 13th, the final chapter. That was it. Yeah. Oh, wait.
No, it wasn't. And somehow I have a feeling that this is not the last we've seen of this either.
Yeah. Although on some term, I hope in some ways it is the last we see of it. I'd like to see more Final Destination movies. Just, can we stop remaking the same one over and over again, please?
Well, see, that's what I thought about this. Now, how many do we have? 5?
4.
4 of these movies. Okay, that's 4. I haven't seen one Final Destination movie.
See, and that's your mistake, because these are actually fun. Hell, the second one is maybe in my top 20 of horror films, period. Not that it's scary per se, but it's one of the most fun horror movies ever made.
Damn, you make it sound like that's a fuck you. Well, fuck you.
Well, fuck you.
That's your
Korey
problem. I've loved the concept of this.
Sure.
When they said Final Destination and death was the killer, you know, I'm used to seeing movies that have an actual killer. I mean, we just got through talking about Halloween too, and we're talking about all the horror icons. I was expecting to see this time like the Grim Reaper showing up and killing people.
In fact, in the first film, they kind of anthropomorphized death. Like you would actually kind of see like swirly smoke that kind of looked like scary figures.
Damn, killer smoke.
Well, to give you the idea that death was actually like a living, breathing thing that was like pissed off because it lost its victims, and so then it had to reclaim them.
Why does death have to be so violent, man? I mean, can it just show up and give you a cyanide pill? I mean, why does it have to be so pissed off if you get away?
Well, then starting with the second film, and from then on, it's like, no, death is just, death isn't nefarious. It's just, you know, the balance, the scales of life. I mean, that's what his job is. It's like, you know, you can't tip something so far without everything, you know, trying to flow back, you know.
Yeah, death said, I'm going to get mine.
Death is going to get his, but it's not an emotional thing. It's not upset about it. It's just the way the universe works. So in this one, just like in the other ones, the film starts off with a giant fucking accident where like tons and tons of people die horribly. And this one is people watching NASCAR, which if you ask me, they had it coming anyway. But still, there's this huge explosion where cars are just rocketing off into into the stadium, and people are dying from shit that I'm pretty sure you wouldn't actually happen. But still, you know, they're dying everywhere. And then all of a sudden there's this flash, and the main character, this kid whose character I don't even remember his name, like it matters, suddenly goes, yeah. And all the shit that was happening before the crash starts happening again. And he goes, oh my God, I just saw all this. We're all going to die. And he kind of starts a fight. So a whole bunch of people go out of the stadium like, you motherfucker, I'm going to kick your ass, as you might imagine would happen at a NASCAR thing.
I was about to say, when did NASCAR become the sports of black people?
Well,
hey, motherfucking death, I'm gonna whoop your motherfucking ass.
There's a bunch of rednecks hanging out and stuff. So they all go out there, but then of course the whole stadium blows up. Everyone inside it dies. And they're like, wow, we're so lucky to have survived. What could possibly go wrong from here? Well, if you've seen the other movies, you know exactly what's going to go wrong, which is that death is going to find them all in the order they would have died in the stadium, which I'm not sure how you figure that one out. But
how many people watching NASCAR that day? 5?
Right. Well, they were
death gonna be busy.
Yeah. Their eyes are still getting cross-eyed from watching everybody drive fast and turn left for 6 hours. But like they're trying to stop the pattern, like the idea being that if you stop somebody like in the order of the deaths, you'll just stop the whole thing, which would be fine if they hadn't already made clear in the previous movies that shit doesn't fucking work. So you spend most of this movie watching these people vainly struggle against something that, as someone who's seen any of these, you go, okay, well, this is all pointless. I mean, from a plot and a storyline point of view, this is all we've seen before, except forgetting like the things we've already been told. And yet at the same time, it counts on its audience knowing the previous films, because the characters just are never surprised that all this is really happening at all. They're just not even seem taken aback by it all. Like, oh yeah, well, okay, well, we got to figure this out then. It's like, what? It's not like death called you to have a business meeting and maybe you could like come to some sort of arrangement. This is like your friends are dying horribly. it doesn't work on that level because of that, but because they come to these conclusions that make absolutely no sense, that are out of nowhere. It literally felt like the writer's room, like, well, I have no idea how we're going to get them there, and I don't think the audience gives a shit. So let's just move it in that direction. I mean, it's not like I expect high quality writing from these things, or acting, which, by the way, unquestionably the worst acting of any of the films so far in this.
Well, it seems like this movie is saying, look, you just want to see people get killed. I mean,
yes, and you do.
I mean, god damn, they kill people in a car wash. I didn't even know you could die by those, because doesn't someone die by the brush in the car wash?
I don't want to spoil anything. Something big happens in a car wash. But, no, I mean, yeah, we see these films to see how these guys are going to die, because it's all like a big Rube Goldberg machine. You know, like the ball rolls down the thing and hits the hammer, which smashes the glass, which releases the rat that was inside the glass, which goes along and its tail is tied to a string, which turns on the light bulb, that kind of shit.
And then it releases.
And then somebody dies in the long run, something blows up.
And then it unlocks the chimp out the cage that jumps on your head and tears your eyeballs out.
Rips your nuts off.
Yeah. That's it, man.
The fun of these is that. And sometimes in here it's really cool. And sometimes it's so dumb it's unbelievable. Like, did you ever read that Chuck Palahniuk story about the guy who's in a swimming pool and gets sucked down where the air water intake is at the bottom?
That could happen?
Yeah, where all his intestines suck out through his ass into this thing.
You know something?
No, it absolutely cannot happen.
Okay, my mom, we had a swimming pool when I was coming up, and my mom always told me, she literally said, keep your ass away from that hole. Like, why would I be sticking my ass up against it anyway? Because it'll suck out your intestines through your asshole.
Yeah, that is old wives' tale for some really demented, sick old wives.
But it happens here.
Yeah, so this is one of the scenes that happened here, and I couldn't help but go, okay, you're really stealing heavily now at this point, but that's so lame, because anybody who's even vaguely, I mean, it's a well-known story. You must, if you've heard it, you've looked it up and seen where someone said, no, that's totally impossible. Could never happen. Much less just to get sucked to the bottom of the pool in the first place by it. I mean, at normal strength. I mean, you've been in a swimming pool. You've seen those intake things. You put your hand over it and you can kind of tell it's sucking in water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is just plain silly. But then there's other stuff in here that's just badass as fuck. There's like, you'll go like, okay, that was lame. But some of these deaths are just way cool. Especially as we get towards the end. There's a whole thing in a mall that's just, you know, it's really the first one of the movies that does sort of redoes the beginning in the sense of like, okay, now we're going to kill hundreds of people again. And that you really don't see that coming. And that's pretty cool, and it's worth sitting through the whole thing for that.
Now, this is directed, I think the guy who did it, and I'm looking up his name here right now.
It's the same guy who did
David R. Ellis.
Same guy who directed the second one, which is by far the best in the series.
Yeah, okay, so he and this guy's used to killing people in creative ways. I mean, shit, he directed Snakes on a Plane. You know, he's going to murder everybody on the plane with some snakes.
And this resembles more Snakes on a Plane than it does Final Destination 2, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's...
Now, see, this is the guy that Michael Myers needs to hook up with, get a little more creative with his shit. This is what we could have used, but it seems like this would be the perfect guy to direct something like this because, as I said, I mean, people, I don't even think they're looking for it for the things that you're probably mentioning that are bad. I mean, you say the actors are bad. You're going to kill them anyway.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's true. And they're young and attractive, and there are boobies. There are some spectacular boobies at that. Brief, but there.
Really?
Yes.
See, I want to see somebody get killed by boobies in this movie.
Yeah, there's no booby death. That would be good, though. We need a booby killer at some point. But
so...
Final Booby Nation. I don't know.
Final Booby Nation?
Boobination? He got boobinated. You've been boobinated.
When you figure out how to do that, tell me how. I want it done to me.
Yeah, that's how I'm going out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I will die tomorrow if you figure out how to boobinate me.
It'll be someone from Japan who figures it out, I guarantee you.
Get my ticket tonight. But here, they seem to like do so many creative deaths. It's like the thing that seems like it might be faulted for mainly is that, okay, they just weren't killing people as creatively as they were in the first three films.
It's still pretty creative. It's just almost too creative at points. It was just like, okay, any idiot can tell that that's totally implausible and that it totally loses its way with the other things that made the series fun, which is actually the progression of the story in the first two, which, believe it or not, was pretty fucking cool. I mean, there's a big twist in the second one that you're like, oh my God, this actually is this really is a sequel to the first one. It's not just a remake. And they just, ever since the third one, they lost their way with all that because I guess somebody somewhere said, oh, what difference does it make? We don't need to hire writers. We just retell the same story over and over again like every other horror franchise. Yeah. And that's a shame because I actually thought this series was a little more special than that.
Yeah, it's too bad, man. I mean, because this is the one that's in 3D, right?
Yeah, and oh yeah, no, I got to say that the 3D is cool. Okay, there's a lot of really badass 3D effects in here that are laugh out loud, like cheering funny.
Really,
they do. I mean, this is a gory film, and they make the maximum out of the 3D with that. I mean, you'll be ducking shit that's flying at you left and right.
Cause see, I gotta tell you, man, I had a good time watching My Bloody Valentine in 3D, and that's what I was thinking. I was like, you know something? It's great seeing all these CG animated films in 3D, and that's cool. But man, a horror movie in 3D, now that's the direction you need to be going in too.
That's the way to go, and it is true because a lot of times 3D is. I mean, you can't help but feel like an entire scene is revolving around, how they're going to make something poke out at you, and one of the only genres that you can forgive that in is horror.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that's fine because we're here for the visceral experience anyway.
Well, let me ask you something. Being that the deaths are so exaggerated, does it work because it's in 3D? Are they exaggerated because they know you're watching this in 3D?
I don't know. It's funny because the deaths that are bad, that are silly, are the ones that have the least to do with the 3D. They just felt like someone thought they were clever. No, it's, there is a problem though, because I don't know if you've ever seen, you can tell when something really 3D is going to happen in a film if it focuses too long on a shot.
Yeah.
Because there's this sort of difference in angles, like something is unnecessarily 3D in a sequence and you're like, okay, something's about to happen right there. And you can tell just because of that. And that happens a lot in here, which is unfortunate, where you're like, oh, we're supposed to be surprised by something that's about to happen, but you can't be because you're just looking at it. It looks like a fucking Viewmaster. Clearly, as soon as you turn that little lever, something's going to pop out.
Yeah. And it seems like sometimes they go too far with trying to do the 3D, like things are coming at you too obviously. It's almost like just kill somebody with the camera lens. Just keep going towards their face and beating it with them.
That's with the camera.
With a camera lens,
like
we
quarantine.
Yeah, we get to see the camera just keep going into their face and going back in their face again. But man, I am looking forward to this. I have to admit. I mean, even though you're saying, now, I guess I should ask you first before I say this. Now, if I got this right, you say that some of the deaths are really cool.
Some of the deaths are really cool.
But some of them are silly.
A few of them are silly past the point of take you out of the movie silly. Yeah.
Acting is terrible.
Ooh.
But it's a horror movie, so that doesn't really matter in a movie like this. And it's in 3D, which you say the 3D is cool, but they don't use it to maximum effect.
And let's not forget that the script is just downright terrible. It's probably the worst script out of all of them in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm confused, man.
Well, it is what it is. If you're a horror movie fan, you like this sort of thing, you're just going in there for the kills and to have fun.
What would you tell me?
See a 3D movie, then I'd be like, yeah, by all means, man. This is a lot of fun to see in the theater for that sort of thing. But if you're like the more serious type of horror film like you want something like Wreck, you want something that's going to scare you, you want something that's going to develop, then this is just mediocre because as a film, it's just kind of there. As a 3D horror film in the theater to see at a midnight show, it's a lot of fun.
So, what are you telling me?
I give this a midnight show.
And what the hell is that? What am I paying for this midnight show?
I'm gonna have to give this a low matinee, and I'm battling with myself. I was between high rental and low matinee because, like I said, there's a lot I don't like about this. But ultimately, the 3D kicks it up over the edge as far as just being a fun experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it could have used more boobies popping in your face and more booby death, but yeah.
Well, let's hope for that in the next movie, that the string comes down and lets the mouse eat the cheese, that opens a cage to the chimpanzee that allows the boobs to be falling on my face and choking me to death.
There you go. You get the stripper with the giant triple Ds and who's paralyzed and she falls on you and you suffocate from that. It'd be hard.